of the greatest number of people. That is what a constitution must be. And having set the objective of the constitution, you then frame a constitution to achieve that objective.
Because we really do have a race problem. Those divisions are real. We see it in our politics, we see it in our trade union. We see that they take the divisions with them. Look at where people live in this US. You have enclaves in the Bronx and in Richmond Hill and in Brooklyn. They're taking the division with them.
Women are dying in the streets, and we have a government pontificating running around campaigning for women's vote. No women should vote in this election coming up unless there is something done to the legislation as Magistrate Kim is advocating.
That voices like ours that are not in the political trench fighting it out, voices like ours should become stronger. One of the things about the Caribbean is that we have never had one discourse. Bass will know the days of the New World and the Old World and the radical left and so on. What we had was this concourse of ideas, which I think in the early days of independence pushed us in a certain direction. We have got to move back to that point of having these multiple discourses.
Good morning. From our studios here in New York, I want to welcome you again this Saturday morning to a program that we have started a couple of weeks ago, Vision for a New Guyana. Today we want to continue our discussion we left off last week, as I had in my program, Mr. Sase who no stranger to us, a financial consultant, and we were talking about what can be done to restore the electricity sector in Guyana. What I'm glad to read in today's paper, the GPL, the public company, has now made a decision that within 2 years, they will somehow get 100 megawatt of power that Guyana really needs. As Sase mentioned last week, we have a capacity of about 160 odd megawatt, but our productive capacity is way, way below that. And we did discuss that, and we think that one of the area that any new government will have to concentrate on is the electricity sector. Without that, there can be no economic development. So this morning, I'm glad to have with us the Honorable Lenox Shuman. He is the leader of the Justice, the Liberty and Justice Party, one of the outstanding young men in Guyana. He has entered the political stage, with a real big bang, and we are hoping that after the next election, that Mr. Shuman will be a part of the next government, because what we have listened to this young man, one, he's young, he have a lot of years on his side. His vision for Guyana is remarkable. And I'm hoping that whoever forms the next government, that Mr. Shuman will be a part of that. And this morning, I'm so honored to have you, Mr. Shuman, on our program. Welcome.
Thank you, Charles.
And again, of course, last but not least, the Honorable Mr. Sase. Sase has also been very outstanding in what he does. We know Sase came all the way in the PYA from the PPP. He was, very integral part of that 1992 elections when democracy was restored. And today he is still fighting for democracy in Guyana. It's so sad that we know we have to keep fighting.
This time I'm not a member of any political party.
And now he's not a member of a political party. But we have to keep fighting and fighting for the same thing. Something is not right if we got to fight for the same thing over and over again. So Sase, welcome again.
Thank you very much, Charles.
All right. Before we start our program this morning, we are trying to get Tangerine. She is a member of the Guyanese community here in Brooklyn, and she's been doing a lot of work after the hurricane devastated the Bahamas. We know that the Guyana Consulate here in New York, they're coordinating with other CARICOM Consul General, and they're raising funds and other things for the Bahamian people. As Guyanese, I know Guyana, the Guyana government, like other CARICOM government, they're also looking at areas where they can help the people of the Bahamas. So Devin is trying to get Tangerine on the line. Is she on the line, Devin? Okay, so she'll be on the line soon, and she will give us an idea of what's going on and where you can help, to help our brothers and sisters in the Bahamas. Okay, by the time we're getting Tangerine, gentlemen, she's on the line. Tangerine, are you there?
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Tangerine. This is Charles. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tangerine.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good. Give us
Good
a report
afternoon.
on what's going on with.
Well, I'm here with our Consul General, the Honorable Barbara Atherley. Let me turn
Hi,
my
CG.
camera
How
so
are
you
you?
can see her. A second.
Okay, take your time. All right, we kind of lost Tangerine there with the Consul General, but we'll get back to them and we'll talk about what they're doing to help our brothers and sisters in the Bahamas. In the meantime, gentlemen, by the time we're getting Tangerine and the CG back, there are some issues that we talked about last week, but very little. I know Joel Bagwandin and Danraj Singh spoke of it in prior programs. Is the condition of our country. The thing is, if our country is not on sound footing, there is a possibility we can get into negative growth. Because if we are spending more than what we are receiving, basically telling us that we are bankrupt. Now, we are told that the last Bank of Guyana report says our deficit is substantially, it's a really huge number. What it means is that we have negative equity. What it also means is that we are spending more than we are receiving. Tell us, says, by the time we are waiting for Tangerine and CG, what implication does that have? What is that and what implication have in Guyana? Oh, CG is back. CG, are you there? CG, are you hearing us? CG? Tangerine? Hello? We're not getting Devin? We have some technical issues with our Consul General's office and our studio. By the time you're getting that, says, you want to let us start that discussion?
Well, I'm seeing the CG, so I think we should give her a chance to speak because
we're having a technical
you want us to
problem.
go into some serious matters, but it's important that we hear what's happening in the Bahamas.
I agree.
Yes, just give us 1 minute.
All right.
Yeah, continue.
So, I mean, we can do it in 1 minute, but bottom line is the overall balance of payment widened from a negative balance of 46 million US dollars in 2018 half year. And you got to compare eggs with eggs. So we have the half year for 2019. It deteriorated from negative 46 to negative 140. It basically means that the government is basically spending more than they're earning. And that's okay in the short term. And it usually happens around an electioneering season. And we are in an electioneering season. The question, though, is what is really concerning to me is after this spending spree, you usually have a period of stabilization. And everybody's being told that the oil funds will come to replenish the reserves and bring that stabilization. But I got some news to share with the Guyanese people. At the Bank of Guyana, the government of Guyana has spent into overdraft. So those who have their personal account will understand what is overdraft. Overdraft is when you spend more than you have in the bank. Went into overdraft by 65 billion.
All right, guys. Hello, could I butt in, please?
That's all right. Thanks, Tangerine. CG, welcome to our program.
She's going to speak right now.
Yes, CG, go on.
You hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, good. All right, so Consul General, welcome. And our Consul General is going to update you what's taking place here today. There's a relief for the hurricane victims of the Bahamas, and our Consul General, along with other council members or the Consular Corps, is here. They are here today, and they're going to tell you a little bit of what's taking place and how people can make a donation here in Brooklyn. Consul General, over to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm here with the members of the CARICOM Consular Corps. In 2017, the Consular Corps activated an emergency group, and we responded when Hurricane Maria hit Dominica and Bermuda and
British Virgin
Islands.
Yes.
And we thought that when the hurricane hit Bahamas, that as the Consular Corps and members of the CARICOM Consular Corps specifically, that we needed to respond as well. I have with me here today the chair for the Consular Corps, and who is St. Vincent. He is the Consul General for St. Vincent. His name is Consul General Honorable Howie Prince.
Yes.
And we are here at 921 Hegerman Avenue at Friends of Crown Heights, and we're receiving donations from members of the public. So I'll let him speak a bit about what's happening in Bahamas, and we know that there's another storm that is actually heading in their direction again. So we know that the needs are great because over 70,000 persons have been displaced. So over to you.
Thanks, Anthony, and we're here to help the people of Bahamas. The Consul General for the Bahamas, he was here earlier, but he had to go off an interview. But when he was here, he spoke for a little while, and he was able to explain to us that the needs on the ground changed rapidly. So a few days ago, you saw, for example, some things on a list, that needs list has changed and it's updated on a daily basis. So right now, the need is for water. There's a real dire need for bottled water. They also need processed foods, canned goods with good expiry dates. Make sure that they have a long shelf life before you bring them. And please don't bring clothing, because people of Bahamas did not request clothing, so we're not taking clothing as part of this drive. We're also taking toiletries, baby steps, for example, and other similar things. That's all. One of the items that came out recently is the need for tarpaulins. There are people who would have a little bit of the structure still remaining, but there's no roof, so they need it for tarpaulins. So we're collecting materials, and we're also asking for cash donations. These cash donations will be directed directly into the funds and the accounts created by the government of Bahamas. Monies, when they go to the Bahamas, would help to jumpstart the Bahamian economy and to get things going again. So your cash donations are also welcome. And we have people here all weekend long. We are here at 921 Hegerman Avenue. We'll be here Saturday all day. Tomorrow from 10 until 5. We'll be here next week as well, both Saturdays. We'll be at House on the 5th of October. The house is on
49th Street in Brooklyn, yes.
438 East 39th Street. 49th Street, sorry. 438 East 49th Street.
Brooklyn.
Yeah. That's right in Brooklyn. We would then skip a couple of weeks and come back here on October 19th to do a final gathering, and everything that we've collected, we hand them directly over to the Bahamian consulate. They have shippers and warehouses established here in Brooklyn, and where they can store things and have them sent to Bahamas. So your donations would be after, and assure you that they will reach the Bahamas. We've been closely in conjunction with CDMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. They're on the ground, so a lot of the supplies that I will be sent directly to them for distribution to the people who are largely affected by this very terrible hurricane that so it did the Bahamas. We have to be about the who are less fortunate, because we never know when the shoe would be on the other foot and it would be our turn for other people to help to look after us. So we ask that you donate of your time. You can come here and help us to pack and sort things. Of your resources, you can go to the supermarkets and to the warehouse and to the hardware stores to pick up stuff. And you can also pull your checkbook out and make cash donations to the efforts that we're having here. Thanks in advance, and we really look forward to you assisting the people of the Bahamas in their time of need.
Thank you so much, CG Prince. And we go back to our Consul General here, Barbara Atlee, and she's going to bring you give you a little more information of how you can make a donation or how you can participate in this amazing effort put on by the Consular Corps.
Yeah, okay. Thanks again, Tanchery. Just to let you know that the consulate for the Bahamas, they have shared with us a list of other places that can be drop-off points or donations. And we have in Queens, the United Methodist Church, 12622 150th Street, South Ozone Park. And the contact person there is Reverend Bernadette Logan. And so it's important for persons in Queens to know that there is also a drop-off point. We will be reaching out to the Reverend Bernadette Logan to see if we can have specific days where Guyanese can go and drop off their contributions in Queens. So you will hear more about this in the coming week.
CG, please remind the people or citizens in Queens, what are some of the items that would be welcome here today?
Well, the items that are welcome include water, as the CG just mentioned, tarpaulin. We also need canned food, baby diapers and wipes. We need some baby food as well as female hygiene kits, as well as other hygiene kits, toothpaste, toothbrush, etc.
And no clothing is needed at this time.
They say no clothing. We're talking baby formula. We're looking for toilet tissues,
paper towel,
hand sanitizer, even bleach. As you can see here, we have some bleach. We have wipes. We have cereal.
Cereal boxes. Like you can bring cereal boxes.
Boxes.
All right.
And other trees such as soap, toothpaste, brushes.
So if citizens or persons would like to reach the consulate or anyone else who would be able to help them with bringing stuff here, how do they go about that? Is there information via phone or website or on Facebook?
Yeah, if they check with the Facebook Guyana
consulate Facebook.
We have the list up there as well, as well as the drop-off points. We will be posting the new sites of Queens and other areas, even in New Jersey, that we just received this morning. We will be posting them so that persons can see where they can make their contributions. They can also contact the consulate and even myself so that I can direct them. I can be reached on 917-893-0226.
Thank you so much. Thanks to our Consul General for all of that information. And from Consul General Prince from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we want to say thank you so much to Globespan for joining us here in Brooklyn. And we look forward to you joining us in future broadcasts, right? Right, CG? Sure. And future efforts here in Brooklyn.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, CG. Thank you, CG, for all the work you're doing.
Before you go...
Thank you very much for entertaining us and for spreading the word. We really want to reach out to our brothers and sisters in the Bahamas because, as it has been said, the hurricane was unprecedented.
Yeah,
they were prepared.
Really sad.
The structures were built for a Category 3 hurricane, but it just could not withstand a Category 5.
Mr. Shuman, is there anything you want to ask?
2 islands were affected. So.
Yes. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you so much to Globespan. Thank you so much to Globespan.
Look forward to your continued support.
Thank you.
CG, before you leave,
Yes.
Okay.
Let me take this opportunity to commend your stellar work and that of your team. And
Sorry?
I said, let me take this opportunity to commend the stellar work that you and your team are doing.
Oh,
And obviously for providing the kind of support to our, what I'd say our community members, because Bahamas is just on the tip of the Caribbean Sea there. I've flown over there quite a few times and it's a beautiful place. At least it was. And I've seen the devastation there. And I would like to say to everyone who's watching to please take this opportunity to do something, I'd say do something else that is good for humanity by contributing to this cause.
thank you very much.
May I add to what Lenox is saying? I was in Florida when the hurricane was on, and I was like really concerned. But after watching what happened, it really goes out in pain, because my understanding is hundreds of people are still missing, and
Yes,
people are still stuck without their breadwinners, their families, and so forth. So I just want to tell you, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart and my family. And we're doing something similar down here in Maryland. Bahamas is family, part of CARICOM, so they're family. And whatever Guyana can do, and we're hoping that sometime maybe some of our soldiers or so can go and help in the recovery, because those houses got to build back. I see Jamaica has sent 150 soldiers to help with the initial efforts, but there will be efforts for like years to come. And we all got to put our shoulders and help family, because in this time of need, CARICOM is one family and we got to help each other.
Please tell us who you are.
This is Sase Narayan Singh.
And you're
Yeah, and just to let me say, thanks for mentioning that. We just had a discussion and at our emergency meeting as well. We mentioned that the Bahamas, they're in for a long haul. The program will take years. And because of that, we have also linked up with another organization to arrange for Caribbean Day of Giving, which will take place in October, on October the 26th. But we can give you more information about this at a later date, but that is being mobilized, and that is to take care of the other long-term needs for the Bahamas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, CG.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I just want to concur with what Lenox and Sase said, CG, is that you're doing a stellar job there at our consulate in New York, and we want to thank you. I know I lectured at your college, and your college also is doing something for the Bahamian cause. And as CG mentioned, please, Guyanese, or everyone who's watching this program, please make your contribution to this cause. It's important that we help our brothers and sisters in need. So CG, thank you so much. Tangerine, thank you so much.
Okay,
tell us who you are.
Is it
CG
Charles?
I'm Charles.
Yes. Say
Is this Charles Sugrim?
Yes, yes.
Thank
Oh,
you,
I
Charles.
thought I picked up the voice. Okay,
CG
Charles,
picked
thank
up your
you very
voice. And
much.
thank you so much.
All right, take care now. All the best.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, gentlemen. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And this comes to the point, Lenox and Sase. If a country has adequate resource that we have created in abundance, which Guyana do have, to help our less fortunate brothers and sisters in a time of need like this, it will be no problem. We know the United States, when there is a massive hurricane like the one that wiped out Puerto Rico, there's a lot of money going to that operation. When it hits, whether it's Mexico or it's within the United States itself, America do reach out to those places. Guyana, and part of our discussion this morning is that we want to ensure that Guyana is in a situation now that we have, we talk about oil coming, that we will be in a position, and God bless Guyana because we are not in the path of a hurricane. Thank God we are on the South American coast. The hurricane do miss us, but we are not susceptible to an earthquake or something like that effect. So the thing is, gentlemen, as we were talking about the Bank of Guyana says you were talking, Lenox, is it something you can give us some hindsight into what is really going on at Bank of Guyana? Bearing in mind, I just want for our audience, yesterday was Lenox's birthday. We want to wish Lenox again belated birthday greetings and all the best. And I know last week was Sase's mom's birthday, so it appears as though there are special people born in this special month, right? So
this week was my son's birthday too.
And your son's birthday, right? As a matter of fact, I was talking to some people yesterday, and was their birthday yesterday as well. I live in Queens Village, and my neighbor, well, not neighbor, the next street, they were playing heavy music. They had a birthday there as well. So Lenox, you share birthday with a lot of people here in Queens as well. So let's talk back to our...
Charles, permit me to interject there quickly. Before we get into some of the heavy lifting that Sase is going to get into there, thanks for the birthday wish. But I want to maybe preempt Sase's comments to the point that Guyana has always had all of the resources necessary to provide relief, not only for Guyanese, but for all of the Caribbean. And I think in what Sase is going to talk about in terms of the economic realities in Guyana right now, most of that has been, I would say, has not materialized to the effect that it should have been due to the poor stewardship of the nation. I'm not going to point finger at a singular entity, and I don't want to just throw something out there, but I think if we are progressive thinkers, and we have to think progressively as to how we can manage our resources to ensure that all of our neighbors, including ourselves, all of our people are properly taken care of. I think that is something that maybe needs to come out a bit stronger.
Thank you. Very important. And as you said, I mean, since we were growing up, I know you're younger than us, Lenox, but since we were growing up, we were hearing of all this resource Guyana have and the potential and we have. And that's all we're hearing is the potential. When will that potential becomes a reality? So Sase, if you want to quickly let us discuss this balance of payment deficit, the overdraft at the Bank of Guyana, what it's actually saying to the ordinary man is that if a company...
It's actually saying that we have pre-spent. We have pre-spent 2 years of oil money. And that is a fundamental, important point that no analyst is picking up clearly in Georgetown, Guyana. I've been reading the papers every day. I'm hoping and praying that somebody will write about it. But nobody is touching this topic of $65 billion has been pre-borrowed by the government of Guyana from the central bank. And the IMF spoke to this matter in their 2018 report. And they basically said it should be rectified. And the administrators of the country promised the IMF since 2018 to rectify it. Now, what I'm seeing happening is they're kicking the bucket down the road so that the next incoming government will have to deal with this. I would say this rope around their neck, because we cannot transform Guyana from mudflat to a metropolis unless we deal with our economic fundamentals. Whatever happens as a nation nationally is the same thing happens in your home. You can't live your life on overdraft all the time. You know, it will wear on you somewhere along the line unless you have what you call funds to honor those commitments. And the problem with Guyana is that we do not have funds. We keep talking about these oil flows. But if the first 2 years of the oil flows are going to be consumed sorting out our economic fundamentals, where and when we're going to have money to really do the economic development that Lenox and the PPP and the PNC and everybody will have in their manifesto coming up.
And that's a fair point.
Charles, let me jump in there quickly.
Go on.
I think there is one thing that we also have to realize, and Sase, you mentioned it quite aptly when we started this conversation, about how it affects how the economic outlook of a country is affected by the electoral process. We have to remember the realities of December 21st, 2018. And that has created a stagnation in the economy that has not seen the revenues go into the government coffers as it would have previously. And I think that has forced the country deeper into the overdraft in that sense. I think after the election cycle, when businesses start to pick up again, or business starts to pick up, you are going to see that there will be a change in what that overdraft balance would look like. But I also want to maybe throw this in there, is that when you talk about economic fundamentals, remember if we don't get the fundamentals right out of the gates, then obviously everything that comes after that would not have the desired effect.
Exactly.
And I think the economic fundamentals are the things that have been missing from Guyana for quite a long time. And once again, I'm not going to point finger to any specific political party or administration. I'm just saying that it has been missing in Guyana. We have not built the kind of financial infrastructure in Guyana to support any kind of lag or lapse, especially during electoral cycles or any other economic downturn. And I think that is something that we have to really take very, very seriously, or any incoming administration will have to take that very seriously and start getting those fundamentals right.
And that's an excellent point, Lenox. And we'll continue the discussion on that same point. How do we get into that mindset to ensure that we use the resources that is available to us to launch our program ahead? This morning, again, our program comes to you with the compliments of Sugrim and Associate and Supreme Quality Carpet. Sugrim Associate, they're certified public accountants. They prepare personal taxes, business taxes, partnership, not-for-profit, estate and trust accounting and payroll. They're located, they have two areas of operation. One is at the Fran Hill Shopping Center, 20507 Hillside Avenue, Suite 24 in Hollis, New York. And the other site is at 13501 Linden Boulevard in South Ozone Park. Call us on 929-460-5043. We are also on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Yelp. Call us and we can be of service to you. And for Supreme Quality Carpet, our friend Steve, he has been there for the last 20 years. He's celebrating his 20th anniversary. There's a sale ongoing, still going on. We want to thank all his customers for supporting him, and he looks forward to serving you for the next 20 years. They do carpet for the home, for the office, for industries, for whatever you are. They can do the installation, and they're very, very professionals. For free estimate, call him on 718-206-9701 or on his cell, 917-669-2593. So yes, gentlemen, let's talk about...
Charles, you remember I prepare a graph. I sent it to you. I think
it's on
to
the screen
give
now.
the Guyanese people the impact of what is going on.
It's on the screen.
This graph actually, yes, this graph actually tells you the extent of the borrowing from the Bank of Guyana. It is a real issue. $65 billion is not chump change. In addition to that, the government has sold over $15 billion on top of that of gold reserves. And the problem is we cannot find enough projects happening on the ground to show for where all this money is going. For the PBP, for their 23 years, they spent about $2.5 trillion. In 4 years, this government has already spent $1.1 trillion. And any visitor to Guyana will ask them, how significantly has the society transformed in the last 4 years? We don't have like new bridges. I mean, the airport project had started before the transformation into the new government. So there's no new Amila Falls. So everybody's asking, where has all this money gone? And that the thing is, somebody got to be held accountable for this, because this is a cleanup operation that will take years to clean. And I do not believe that people should walk away from such a travesty, economic travesty, because what you've basically done by spending future oil revenue already, you've basically taken it from the children of Guyana, not you and I, who are already over our 40s, or Lenox. That's not our money. That is the children of Guyana's money, and we have no right to spend it on their behalf without permission. They should give us those permissions. And that is why I believe unity is an extremely important concept, because in any future economic program that anything has in Guyana, it should have the buy-in. Everyone should have a buy-in so that we can create something that is Guyanese. I think we had a chance to do that under President Carter in 1994 when the National Development Strategy, headed by then a former PNC Minister, Kenneth King, to develop a framework for Guyana. Why can't we revisit that framework and refine it together and then implement it? I mean, somebody will have to be the government. I can't say who will be the government, but whoever wins will have a document that can be passed on to all future governments. That's what I'm saying.
Sase, there are some things I think that the public needs to understand also in what you just said there. When I'd say any administration coming in, while we have gone deeper into deficit or pretty much tapped into our overdraft, any incoming administration is going to have to dig deeper into that, because when you look at it, a country that is 53 years old, we have what, 2,400 paved road, 2,400 kilometers of paved road, and we have to develop a massive, massive infrastructure to drive our economy. We talk about issues in terms of Dutch disease and all these things. These things are already present in Guyana. If you walk around Guyana, you're going to see people who are just laissez-faire around the country. Now, we have to look at an incoming administration that is going to develop an economic model or develop an economy that is void of oil revenues. I'm sure that is going to be very, very difficult, but we have to support the traditional sectors that have supported the economy before we even understood what oil was. I think when we look at the kinds of development that need to be undertaken in Guyana, I'd say it has to make sense for the private sector. Mm-hmm. We continue to overtax our own, and then we provide massive concessions to these multinationals and foreigners. Let's take the local content policy, for example, at least in draft. When you're taxing our locals to that extent, and you're providing a free ride for all of these people who are coming into the country and not paying taxes, then how do we get out of that overdraft? We have to look at policies that make sense not only for the country, but for the people, for the business sector in Guyana. I think those are some of the things that we have to start talking about also.
Okay, gentlemen. We're talking about the large deficit at the central bank, which is a grave concern. The thing is, where does the government get the revenue from to put into the central bank, into the consolidated fund, so we can reduce that? I know Sase mentioned we're hoping that the oil money will kind of wipe that out. That's a possibility. But the man on the street, he's looking for a job. He or she's looking for a job. How can we put programs in place? What program in place can we put to create jobs for all Guyanese once they want to work? Let's go with Lenox.
Well, I think we have to address this. Sorry, I think you said Lenox. All right, go on.
Yeah, Charles, thank you, and Sase, thank you. Let's look at what drives an economy. Generally, you don't find governments driving economy. What governments do is produce the kind of environment for businesses to thrive. It is the private sectors and the small businesses that drive all of this activity, really. The government is not going to generate the kind of tax revenues from itself. It has to generate that from the wider population. And the more people we have doing businesses, obviously it has a better outlook for any country that supports private enterprise. I think what we can do is look at, once again, tax policies that make sense to ensure that let me go back a little bit here. We have to increase our tax base. We have many people who are earning money off the table, under the table, off the books, and are not contributing to the national development of Guyana. If you go to many places, they say, look, I want to be paid in cash. I don't have time with the bank and all these things. What happens when you pay cash is that you don't have an opportunity to track that income. You cannot tax that income, and a whole host of things. I'm not saying that we have to hike our tax rates. What we have to do is increase our tax base so that everyone contributes to the national development of the country. We also have to make policies that support local businesses. I cannot say that enough. The local businesses are the ones that drive the economy. The government does not. What the government does is provide the right environment, the right policies to support those businesses.
Yes, Sase, you want to continue?
I think we need to really buy into this idea that, even though I support the idea of local content, we have to buy into the idea that Guyana will never, ever be able to walk away from extractors. And the world is designed that way. You have extractors, people who will come to countries and extract things, take it away, add value to it and make money. And then you have countries who have the wealth in the land and the water, and that frames the wealth. We can never run away from that. What I really actually would really be looking at is, do we understand as a people what is local content? And for the people to get an understanding of it, the policymakers got to be clear in their mind what is local content. So, because one of the things I'm seeing happening in Guyana is that, you see, history shaped choices. We have to remember that. But what I'm seeing in Guyana is that, let me just explain my interpretation of local content. Local content basically means a set of policy whereby companies will come and extract things from a country. And that will happen. Whether we like it or not, it will happen. Where the local content comes in is how the host country, meaning Guyana, influence the supply chain to make sure that value is added domestically in the local country to create, one, capacity for the local players, two, to also create, leave some resources in that country, but lastly, but more importantly, leave an infrastructure in place that when the gold and the diamond and the oil and everything ceases to exist, as already plundered, there's an infrastructure left there that the country can carry on living. So my question I've always asked anyone in the private sector is, what happens to Guyana the day after oil is exhausted? And nobody can answer that question to me because nobody has a plan. And Guyana should be planning for the day after oil. Everybody's just running around like headless chicken. Oh, we're going to have tons and tons of money. Tons of money for whom? Not Auntie Delary in Cane Grove or Uncle Lenox in Buxton or James in Paramakatoy. Money for whom is the question. And nobody's answering that question.
But sis, yes, we have to look at the future after oil, but we have not yet started receiving the oil. So the question is, what should be in place now? You talk about the local content. Norman said a question on the screen, if you can see it. With the coming oil boom, how do you plan to stop and curb corruption, which is likely to increase 3 to 5-fold with the increase in wealth? And also David Boge, he said, I would like to hear Lenox Shuman speak about the political impasse that is in Guyana at the moment. I feel Shuman has been too quiet with regard to the elections crisis. He needs to speak up and take a greater profile in this scenario. Now, any economic development must also have a political solution to, everything has to marry together. If you don't marry the person who you can talk to and live with, you're going to have a whole lot of problem. You work in the office, if you can't get on with the person next to you, you'll have a terrible working life. So the thing is, our politicians, and Lenox, you're one of them, Sase, you're one of them, how do we marry?
Well, no. I'm a retired politician.
Okay.
Boss.
How do we?
When I do decide to run for office, the world will know.
Okay.
But right now, I'm a retired politician.
I got you. How do we, Lenox, marry this political impasse
Charles,
that we're in?
Let me get in on the second question first.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me get in on the second question first. What are we trying to do to deal with the political impasse? We have to realize that the media houses in Guyana are all partisan. Whether we want to admit it or not, whether they want to admit it or not, there's no such thing as independent media in Guyana. And for all of the attempts that we've made to make public what we are trying to do, no one has taken our work on board. 2 days ago, we met with the Carter Center to discuss the very issue about the political impasse. And one of the things that we continue to advocate for, publicly and privately, is for dialogue between the leader of the opposition and the president to ensure that we do not have a constitutional breach come September 18th, that a date is set for elections, and that they sit down and have that dialogue to convene Parliament and extend the life of Parliament to that specific date. But you cannot go to Parliament and ask for an extension on a date that has not been defined. There must be a definition as to where you're going. What is the end point? And I'm pretty sure that if His Excellency says, look, we would like to have elections on the 30th of November or the 4th of December or whatever, just pick a date. Obviously reasonably enough to give GCOM its opportunity the opportunity to conduct its process. But I'm pretty sure that if the president is to say, look, we would like an extension to this specific date or maybe one day beyond, and this is when we'd like to call elections, I would venture a guess that maybe the opposition would be receptive to that. And if the opposition is not receptive to that, then to me, both of them would, or if the president cannot propose as much and the opposition cannot accept as much, it shows poor leadership in that sense. It shows that you're contributing. You have no interest in moving beyond this impasse. In terms of the corruption component, the Liberty and Justice Party is a party that deals with tech, with now and with future. Obviously, we have to look back at history and see how it has or has not impacted like the implementation of technology. But I would tell you, when we talk about curbing corruption, how do you think that other nations deal with it? I mean, you've got Europeans who ended up banking in Panama, but at some point it got revealed. They cannot do that at home because of the structure, the financial infrastructure that exists to address all of these things. I think when we start utilizing technology, when it becomes more of a prominent fixture in our society, you are going to see quite a lot of differences. When we talked about increasing our tax base, for example, the implementation of blockchain technology, when I pay Sase $10, it records in my account that I paid him $10, and Sase's account is recorded as receiving $10. And then the Revenue Authority also knows that I paid Sase $10 and Sase received $10. So when you implement blockchain technology in that sense, it adds that layer of transparency in the system. I'm not saying that we have to literally let the public know that Sase and I are exchanging $10. We also have to look at something called the Privacy Act. I'm not even sure Guyana has one that protects people's personal information. When it comes to the declaration of contracts between the state and entities, that has to be something that I'd say immediately before the contract is even signed, the public needs to understand what it is that we're trying to sell everyone. And when that contract is signed, the public also needs to be appraised or find access to that information that says, look, this is what we signed on behalf of the nation. And that way they could scrutinize it and they could be held politically accountable for it. When we have backroom deals and under the table deals and stuff like that, the public never knows about it. We are giving away our patrimony. Sase was talking earlier about the extractive sectors coming into Guyana, and that is a reality. I quite agree with him on that we cannot stop that. But what we can do is obviously put the measures in place that will see Guyana benefit equitably and equally from these agreements. And how do we do that? It is to have what I'd say public access to everything that the government has signed or proposed to sign on behalf of the country. Obviously, there are going to be national security implications in some parts. But those parts could be vetted, and you could have a parliamentary committee that has oversight over those things. So now you can't say, well, in the interest of national security, well, who determines national security? Is it one person? Is it a team? Is it just cabinet? I think those things need parliamentary oversight in that sense. But we need to have a discussion once again on what is a Privacy Act? How do we implement it? And public disclosure of all contracts that are being signed on behalf of the Guyanese people. That needs to be accessible. And I think when we put all these multifaceted things in place, you are going to see a reduction in corruption, because now you could go directly to your minister or your member of parliament after we go through constitutional revision and say, look, you know what, you signed this on behalf of us. We don't think that you're the right person for us. Let's get you out.
Sase, you want to contribute to that?
The person talk about corruption. I would want to focus on that. I'm not really worried about corruption anymore. And I'll tell you why I'm not worried. If you have the economic fundamentals working well, and the country is rapidly expanding, the economies, all the boats are rising, corruption will become less of a point. You don't think in America we have corruption? We do have corruption in the United States. We have corruption in Canada. We have corruption in every country. But it becomes less of an issue when everybody's doing better. And this is the point that I really, really want to bring out. And I want to talk about this oil agreement, because it is a vexation to my soul. And I've been very quiet on it because I really wanted to make sure that Guyana get the best. But it's a vexation to the soul, because when the Tolo agreement was signed, that is when I really, really got disappointed. Because we got to understand, Guyana's always struggled reputationally. We were on creditworthy in 1988. We got back into creditworthiness, and we've always struggled to attract foreign direct investment. I mean, fair enough, the economy multiplied by 567% over the 23 years of the PPP. So they did some creative way of getting some of these investments in. But the reality, what I, based on my reading, in 1999, when Janet Jagan signed that oil agreement with Exxon, it was a prospective agreement. They were the first landing. Everybody's been talking about oil in Guyana since the 70s or even before that. But nobody has found it in commercial quantity or actually agreed to extract it in commercial quantity, because I was told that they did find a lot of oil by a company called Hunt Oil in the Rupununi. But because of politics, they didn't extract it. But the question is, we are at a point in time where the extractors have made a decision that they want to extract our oil. But in 1999, nobody in Guyana knew that we had this oil in such a large quantity. Maybe others, the developers knew, but we didn't. But upon knowing this information, the first people who got this information was Mr. Robert Prasad when he was Minister of Energy. He knew about the information around 2015, 2014. So once we got wind of that information, it changed the entire dynamics on how we do any future oil agreement or how we engage any future investor. Because now you're at the table as a man, not a boy. You've got an asset that is defined, that is discovered, that is exploitable in commercial quantity. But we now went with a 2% royalty we got on, which Minister Trotman got in 2016 on Exxon. And we went subsequent to that and gave a future company a 1% royalty. That for me doesn't make any sense. And that entire framework should be investigated. And I'm saying, I am very, very disappointed in politicians because I feel they take care of each other. Politicians in Georgetown take care of each other. And it has to be said. Because, you know, I'm kind of queasy, and I'm committed to this, but this is the problem. I'm kind of queasy that if the government change and a new government comes in, then all these bad boys who did all this damage over the last 4 years will get a free pass. And that is a vexation to the soul. And I think that is an issue that Guyana should rebel against. Because there's I would call it a Georgetown connected class, a group of people who sits at the top and they play both sides and they wine and dine in the hotels and with the champagne glasses, but they're doing deals on all sides. And they've corrupted the entire political machinery of Guyana. And we need to fix that.
Point taken,
we need to fix that.
I totally agree.
But here's the thing, Charles, give me 30 seconds here. I think you hit the nail on the head, is that the PPP cannot hold the PNC accountable, nor can the PNC hold the PPP accountable, because both of them are co-conspirators in giving away our patrimony in this sense. It is not only a vexation to you, Sase, but I think to many, many Guyanese. I think that one of the things that needs to be done is to hire an independent investigator to come and take a look.
Well, who will hire this investigator? The point is, I'm feeling that the connected class in Georgetown is taking care of business, and hence the entire nation is suppressed.
Well, let me tell you who is going to hire this independent investigator. To be Lenox, Shuman, and the Liberty and Justice Party, if we were to put it that way. Because I think at some point...
But the AFC said this in 2011. The AFC said this in 2011.
Absolutely, but we all know that Moses was kicked out of the PPP, Camraj was kicked out of the PPP, Raphael was kicked out of the PNC. So what you had back then were political rejects who wanted to find a way to get back to their political masters in that sense. And all they wanted to do was to go in there and take revenge, except that instead of that, we all know what happened. But I think from the Liberty and Justice Party side, and what we stand for is a very, very strong stance against corruption. And if it has to do with investigating all these people and everything else, then we have to take that very seriously. The country cannot continue to move forward. We were talking about economic fundamentals earlier in the show. The country cannot move forward on flawed economic fundamentals or the absence thereof. And in order to reset this country of Guyana, we have to obviously look. And when I say look, not only look, but implement the very strong anti-corruption measures that are going to address these very same things. If something happens in the US and Canada, all of those things are investigated. I quite agree with you that there is corruption in just about every country. But when you look at the more developed countries, it becomes more difficult to become corrupt. That you have to go to a certain level and it has to take a long drawn-out process that by the time you're done, you're a pauper and you're a panhandler in the street because of how you would have tried to dodge the system. I know that in Canada, for example, if there is something that happens at a municipal level, the provincial police comes in and investigates. If it happens at a provincial level, the federal police, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, comes in to investigate. We need a tier system of law enforcement officials who are going to look at these things. You cannot permit the police to investigate the police and their friends. What you need is a separate tier. I mean, the US, they have it in the FBI that actually looks at these things. If something happens in many, many jurisdictions, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has that authority. I think we need a similar mechanism in Guyana to address corruption and to ensure that, once again, we can't eliminate it, but we can minimize it.
And gentlemen, I know when we're having fun, time is running out. The thing is this, no matter what our discussion is, this morning we wanted to concentrate on job creation, on salary increase. I know elections coming up. I think now is the time to bargain with your politicians because they're all looking for votes. Maybe salary should go up by 15, 20%. The union should really go out there and do it, and they will get it because everybody's looking for vote. And the thing about Guyana is, if you want to discuss issues, you cannot because of everything comes in the Elections Commission because of elections and because of corruption. And it kind of overshadows everything else that we want to do. And Mr. President, if you're looking, and I hope maybe you can look at this program sometime, listen to Mr. Shuman. If Mr. Jagdeo, listen to Mr. Shuman. He's saying that September 18th will be 4 days from today. What happened after September 18th? The opposition is saying it will be a legal government. The government is saying we are not illegal. What will be going on? Will there be a constitutional crisis? Mr. President, everything is in your hand. Sit down with the opposition and deal with the issues. Do not hold Guyanese at bay. You're a historian, Mr. President. You know exactly what happened in history. I mean, all over the world, there are leaders who made great strides for their country, and they're remembered long after their death. I mean, when you think of men like Nelson Mandela, men like Mahatma Gandhi, these names will be in people's lives until human exists on the planet. Where does other leaders fit into that place? Mr. President, it is time for you to call a shot. You're in charge, and you can make Guyana a better place for all of us to live in. And that's why, in closing, gentlemen, I want to announce that these programs, again, they're only because of the advertisement we can get. Noah Singh, Globespan, and Devin have been doing their best. If we do not get advertisement to support the cost for these programs, some of these programs may have to end. We don't want that. We want to bring news to the people of Guyana. Right now, there's a daily news broadcast. Over 5,000 Guyanese and people around the world are looking at it daily that they're doing out of Guyana. And we have the Monday program with Dr. Mahadeo. We have the Wednesday program, issues in the news. We have this program. We have the morning program where the issues of all different things are discussed. And they cannot happen, ladies and gentlemen, unless we get your support. So we need you, all you guys out there, call your friends, family, those with business, please place an ad. If we don't do that, these programs might have to come to an end because we cannot continue with Noah Singh alone doing it. Just to mention also that October the 5th, in 1992, October the 5th was the restoration of democracy in Guyana. I want to announce to you that Mr. Lenox Shuman is expected to be in New York on October the 5th of this year. It will be a meet and greet, and we also want to do a fundraising for him because he's blazing trails in Guyana, and we can support him by coming out, and we'll give you the venue. We're looking at the venue right now in Queens, hopefully, so we can come and meet with Mr. Shuman. Ask him the hard questions. I know we ask the politicians hard questions, and when they get into office, they kind of throw you off. I hope Mr. Shuman is not that kind of politician. He doesn't appear to be that way, but you know, in life, everything is possible. So again, Mr. Shuman, I want to thank you so much for being in the program. Sase, it's always a pleasure for you to be here, and we look forward again. Gentlemen, before we close, you want to give a closing statement. Mr. Shuman?
Well, Charles, thank you. Sase, thank you. And to Nohar, thank you once again for this opportunity. This discussion is but one component or one small part of what we intend on delivering to the country. When we start talking about what needs to be done, it is a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done for Guyana. It cannot be accomplished in any kind of short one-term issue, and I'm going to be very clear on that. Whatever any political party is promising, sit there and interrogate their policies, look at the roadmap that is going to get you there, because there is nothing that is worth anything that is going to be achieved in a very, very short time. The road that we have ahead is going to be long, it is going to be very tedious, sometimes tiresome, but we have to stay the course, and that course can only be built or started with sound fundamentals. Once again, thank you, and I look forward to more of these discussions.
Thank you. Sase?
Charles, thank you very much for a closing statement. If we can define one thing that is of paramount importance behind any rise of Guyana into the future, is an attitude of mind, a collective attitude of mind. We have to have that ability to convert our permanent disadvantage, which we all know what it is, into continuing advantages. Our diversity must be worked in such a way that it drives a unity of mind. And that can happen. I do believe it can happen. I wish all the political parties in Guyana well. I don't have too much confidence in the third forces, and no disrespect to Mr. Shuman. I like him personally a lot, but I believe that because of what the AFC did in 2011, it will be hard for people like me to even think about a third force going forward. But we'll see what the future holds. So, but what I'm very, in this closing statement, I am appealing to and I shouldn't be appealing to her. It's her job. She gets paid $10,000 to do that. I am imploring the chairman of GCOM to do her job. Give that country a choice. Whatever the people decide, we will accept. Because all we want is democracy. I don't care who wins. So in closing, I am imploring the GCOM chairman, please do your job and stop pussyfooting on the real matter at the heart of Guyana right now.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. I want again, thank you. And again, don't forget the Consul General request. Anyone who wants to give a donation in dry food or anything to our friends and families in the Bahamas, please do that. And again, we want to thank our sponsors for today's program, Sugrim and Associate and Supreme Quality Carpet. We look forward to having other companies place ad in the different programs with Globespan 24x7. Again, today I want to thank again Mr. Lenox Shuman, Mr. Sase Singh, Nohar Singh, and Devin for their great work here at Globespan. And again to our viewers out there, here from New York.
Thank you, Devin, and thank you, Devin and Nohar.
Good afternoon, and God bless you.
Thank you.